Hey, welcome back to the Indiana Garage. And if you follow our series on this 72 Plymouth Duster, we just painted it in the last episode. Got a lot of views, a lot of attention, which rightfully so. This car has come a long way. And any of us has only seen it where it sits currently. So it has been on jack stands, like when I painted it. But before I put any decals or anything on it, I really do want to have a moment where I don't have to kick myself in the butt and start sticking decals on it, and then I pull it out in the sun and realize, whoa, some things are showing that you don't want to show. So I stuck some wheels back on it. I'm getting the jack stands out from under it, and we're going to roll her out here in the sunshine, at least before it gets dark, and see what it looks like. So stay tuned. Alright, so the front, I gotta try to be easy with it. This jack likes to kind of escape. There we go. That's okay, so it's on all tires. I had to put an old steering gear in it while we're waiting for our firm feel box, which is always fun and pricey, but it's the price we pay, right? So hopefully we can just roll it straight out. It won't fight me too much, and then we'll get a good look at it in the sunshine.
Is it dry?
That's one to go kind of to the right towards the camera there. Make sure we can kind of come out straight.
Is this move dried out?
Dried out? The tires are dried out. Be careful, we're going to move it.
Hey, I can get a push.
That's good. Hey. Go grab. Alright, so here it is. It is a little dusty. I will probably wipe it off, at least all these top surfaces. That way we're not having any inaccuracy in what we're looking at. That's a bug, yep. Oh no, do we have a hair? We do. We have a hair got in there. And I have my hat on and everything. Goodness. Didn't even see it. So that's why we bring them out. You see what's in it. There's the dust. That's what the hand mark is here. I see a couple spots that I did there, I think. I'm just being honest with you because I don't want everybody to think I'm some master body guy. It's right here, but I can see a little bit of that muddling. Probably almost makes it look cloudy, even though we do have clouds in the sky. It makes it look. But so far, I think I'm not mad at nothing. So, and I think looking at it on the phone here, it actually looks a little better. And remember, we have our blackout up here. That's why I did not really concentrate on working the orange peel out. So that was a little bit on purpose. I did leave this part here to be in gloss because that's part of the strobe package. And then right up to about here. So anything within there to here, I did not really concentrate. Now I did hit the front edge just in case, you know, the underside. But that's what we got. Let me get it wiped down, at least carefully. And we'll take another look. Let's take a look back here. Looks good with them wheels on. I mean, I know they're mismatched, but at least the sizing looks pretty cool. And there it is there. Of course, compare it to a new car like that. Newer car. Newest car. I don't know. Dang, the hair. The hair. I guess I could probably polish that out. It's very subtle. That's dumb. Get all that grit off there. We'll probably blow it off first and wipe it down. Okay, so as like an honorary thing, I guess, I'm gonna go ahead and just put our decals on. Now remember, I'm kind of going off the program, off the reservation for a moment, but I'm doing that with a handful of things on this car, so I don't think it's really a big deal at this point. But here is one of the original emblems. It's the little pot metal chromed emblem, and it would sit right there. 72 was the first year for the actual metal emblem. This one's got a broken stud. I used to have a bunch of these, but I've either sold them or used them on other cars, so it is out of the question. But they are noticeably the exact same size as the decal. And this decal is reflective. It just has a black border, where these were painted white or an off-white on the inside. But you'll notice they are the same exact size. Okay, so I do have a faint mark of where one of my holes used to be. It was right there, and I'd welded them up. So we can see right here, it's right where the U and the D connect. So I'm just gonna take this and square it up right there. Now this does need to move over a little bit. I'm using this as just an alternate marker, because through the light and all that, the little black mark shows me where the center of the emblem would be. I put this up here. I have it aligned parallel with the body line up here, because that's what you want it to align with. You don't want it to be like this on this body line, because it goes downhill. So it's basically going to sit right there, and I'll parallel it with that tape just like that. That's exactly where it'll sit. So let's give it a try. Oh, this has been wiped down. It's very clean. My hands are clean. All that. Pull it apart carefully, because it might hook one of the parts of the decal, the letters, and it will tear it or stretch it. So I do want it right there, like I said, parallel. I'm going to stick it on my left side here. Rub it down real good. Sometimes if you use like the larger decals like we're going to use, they will come with a little, looks like a Bondo spreader. Especially if you're doing the water, so you can slide them around. This one's so small, you shouldn't have to do that. You can squeegee the water out of it. I'm just going to push all the corners down really good. Crosshatch, kind of like our body work, right? Carefully pick that loose. It's good to not just pull it straight out. Any of these kind of vinyl graphics, it's good to kind of go at a little bit of an angle and then flatten it right back against it, but be very careful. Don't just start sliding it off. You're coming directly back against the panel, flush with the panel. So just like this. Look at that. Start to get a little personality again. There you go. And again, they use these on 70 and 71 cars. 70, they put them a little lower, I believe, and it's had the Valiant emblem above it. If it's a 340, they would move it over here a little bit, had the 340, and it had the Valiant little nameplate. In 71 it would look like this. So this is a little bit more of a 71 style right here, just having it by itself. If you had a 340, assuming unless it was a stripe delete, you would have it up on the front of the fender on the stripe itself, and it was the same one, I believe, as this. So there we go. Let's put the one on the other side. Rub this down on there real good. A little friction shouldn't help, or shouldn't hurt rather, so you get a little heat adhesion. And like I said on the other side, gently pick it loose and then roll it back flat just like that, and go slow. Now my experience with doing this has included the 1972 through 74 Dodge Challenger rally stripe package. If you're familiar with those, right here on the fender, there's looks like we call it a rake. It's like a little louver of some sort. Got 4 slots in it. Well, the slots, it looks like they deteriorate into, they fade. Each of the 4 stripes fade, but they're little tiny strobe stripes that get a little thinner as they go out. And I think I counted one line of them and then multiplied them by 4, and it was like, I don't know, 500 individual little stickers. Well, even though I was doing that and I had the moisture on, I was squeegeeing it out, they wanted to stay on the paper in some places. So I had to get really creative and cut the paper. It was going to be a nightmare, but then I managed to eke by. Okay, I didn't really originally plan this for the video, but I figured we'll go ahead and put our rear stripe on. Everything's curing up pretty good. Per the instructions from the stripe maker, which I believe is 3M, is go over it with wax and grease remover. Now, yes, this is a fresh paint job, so there hasn't been any waxes or polishes or anything like that applied. No cut and buff, nothing like that. But I'm going to do it because you never know what's floating around in the air. Especially in this shop, a lot of stuff floating in the air. Could have landed on there, so we're just going to go over it once. And at least a few more times. I think they even suggested 10 times on some stuff that you're not reapplying it back on the surface. So a couple times here should be good, considering it's relatively new paint. So here is our stripe. It comes in this plastic sleeve. These I bought these pretty much everything. Might be one exception. Might be the side stripe. But the tail, the stencils for the hood, those little duster decals come from Graphics Express, stripes and decals. Bring on the style. I believe they are in Florida. I think that's where everything was shipped from, is Florida. And these are Mopar Authentic Restoration. So you got that, right? Got these on eBay. You just look for the stripes and colors you need. And there you go. And they do give you an instruction sheet, which is good to go over. They suggest a nice clean bottle with a gallon of water and your Dawn detergent. Now just look at the one that it says though. Dawn Ultra. That's what they suggest. I believe it's a tablespoon, but just do what it says. And even though you know what you're doing, go ahead and revisit the instructions, because sometimes there's a tip that you really need to pay attention to that you might have forgotten because you think you know it all. I'm going to wet this a little bit. It's a little trick they say on the paper that you can use, and then you squeegee it down again, and then it'll help bond the decal a little better to the body, and then you can peel the paper off without it much. See, our gap up here, I can tell it's just the way it wants to set, the way the shape of the panel throws it around. I wonder if I can improve that anymore. It's not as bad over here, but it's... we might just have to live with it. These were not perfect, right? And this car is no exception. I think we can make it all work though. I'm curious how that key lock hole is going to look, how even it is. Live with it for a little bit and get used to it. You realize it won't bother you that much. But just little things you need to give a little attention to, take care of. If you can help it, help it. If you can't, don't worry about it. Okay, now we are ready to lay the stripes on this side. I'm going to bring the light over on this side. We have our stripes. We've laid them out overnight so they'll not be all wound up as tight from being in the box. And plus we just have them in the right orientation. I just got done doing the other side, making sure I'm kind of covering all my bases before I go telling you anything about this side. Let's take a look. And there it is. These Gold Duster stripes are kind of odd in ways because I've seen some of them and they don't look the greatest. And it's because the factory ones weren't the most smoothest looking ones. Usually it's back here in this area. They have a little cattywampus to them. One thing I've noticed when people put these stripes on, sometimes they are way off on them. I've seen some of them where this stripe is about 2 or 3 inches higher. And we got to remember on these stripes, they follow this body line, this center body line. They sit directly on top of it. And many times you will see them go up and then down or down and up. It's because they're not able to follow that line. And it is a little hard to tell, especially with maybe a white stripe and that body line being a little soft. You don't see a real sharp edge. But I'll show you this. And I got a little bit to, there you go, push it down. Stuff takes a while. They're tender for a while. So you notice we're really straight in the fender and door. Now that little cattywampus thing is kind of reproduced in here. You notice they kind of do that. That's really nothing I don't think you can do a lot about. But overall, they look really good, especially when you get back here. Because they're on a curve and all this kind of stuff. And I'll show you this right here. I did include the top of the pinstripe in the gas cap. And you don't really have to do anything on the wide one because it doesn't really eclipse any of that circle there, so you just pretty much trim it. But there's our one side. What do you think about the stripes on the Duster?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Good. Now we jump back over on this side, and I've just got a couple points I'll relay to you. I've looked at some factory Gold Duster cars to see where the stripes fell. As in this front spear, how far does it come up to the very front? Does it set way back here? Well, just on a basic judgment, it comes back about 3/4 of an inch or so from the plane. And that's not exact, but that's looks close, right? So it's not gonna look off. All right, and you're gonna have a little bit of overhang once you lay it, because it's gonna have to wrap around the fender about 1/2 inch or 3/4. So this is roughly where the bend will be. This simply marks, now this isn't on the actual decal. It's on the transfer paper. And that is just to show where the center body line is. It's basically, this is a 1 inch wide stripe right here in the wide part. It's 1 inch, so that's 1/2 inch each way. So that should fall on that. Now the reason I have tape on this side, on the fender, and also on the quarter, but not on the door, is because I'm going to do the door first. I did it on that side, and that's a good place to start because the door doesn't have a lot of weirdness to it. It doesn't have the little kick out of the fender lip. It doesn't have the bulge of the quarter panel and the fender lip and all that and so on. So it's the most truest panel on here. So as long as we mark our middle, see the middle line here, that's why that black line's there. Same thing down there. So when we take our center one, they make the door stripe considerably longer. This much longer here and that much there. You can probably put it on the end first and go in, but I'm just going to center it and then trim the access off once I establish it. Here's the edge of the door. Same thing down there and in our center. And that will pretty much line up with that one. Once you get that center one on, when you go to put your front one on and your rear one on, all you need is front and rear marks, which I have it here, and this signifies where the very butt of this, I trimmed the transfer paper off to where that will butt right up to that on the tape. And then the back one here, the way it kind of veers out, that point should point directly at that, okay? Now, if you're trying to figure out which side these go on, it probably ultimately does not matter because they both mimic the quarter panel bulge either way. But looking at enough examples, notice how the tip here, see where my thumbnail is? It kind of kicks up a little bit. Whereas if you look at it this way, it's a little flatter. Based on factory cars, it looks like this is the side that would go here. It looks like it has a little kick up, and it does the same thing on this side here. See the little kick up? Okay. Like I said, it probably doesn't matter. But from what I've noticed, it seems like the factory ones, that was the only signifier, and it looks like it hikes up there. Now we used our grease and wax remover, even though, like I said, there's none on this car yet, nothing like that. But you never know what particulates could be floating around. Get on there and it could settle in a little tighter than you'd like. So we have wiped the area down, probably about yay wide, all the way down to that way we cover the stripe and anything a few inches around it. And these are just like the stripes we use on the back. I'm going to peel this backing off, soak it down with our Dawn mixture water out of a spray bottle, and then we can start to apply it. Now, if you're wondering, does these matter which end is which? No. That stripe is the same width there, and the distance for the little stripes around it, little pinstripes, are the exact same. So if I bring this around here and bring this right here, they are exactly the same. So, and it's a laser straight stripe, so that does not matter whether you're upside down or anything on this one. And same thing with these. This could go on the driver's side or the passenger side. It is symmetrical that way. I just think that the quarter panel ones are only slightly different. Nice and even. And then you can get down here and eyeball it. You can tell if something's off. So I think it's a little, see the little wrinkles? I think it does need to come down a little bit here. Now I did line up the ends with those marks. So you might have to re-wet it since I did squeegee it out a little bit. Be careful. Pull it out. Get a little bit here. Peel it down some. And kind of start over again. I have the stripe somewhat stuck on there, right? So I've squeegeed it a couple of times. I'm going to come beyond the edge of the door. Give yourself a little extra. Hold it out, and we can cut it so we can make our bend. Just go slow and be careful. That way you don't make any big sweeping mistake. And you can trim it up later when you go to wrap it. So what I want to do on this is tuck it behind the fender here. That way it can settle a little bit, like so. And you might have to put little relief cuts in the, not stripe, but the actual masking or application paper to help it bend around there. But just let it dry a bit before you even worry about that, because otherwise it's going to keep popping loose no matter what you do. As long as there's moisture under it, it's not going to stick that well. Now it is using kind of a suction, natural thing to do that right now, but. And when I talk about cutting around the edges here, see the flap right here? I did a little bit there, a little bit there, but I did not cut into the stripe, okay? And I also cut that so that you would take the tension off of this masking paper so that it would have a little bit more freedom to wrap around. And like I said, you want to worry more about it when it dries, but then you can kind of hold it taut and wrap it around. But see, it wants to lift that paper there. So it needs trained a little bit. But we'll kind of start it there with just giving it a little bend, and that'll help train it. Same thing there. See it pop back loose, and that's okay. See the bubbles coming out. So it's going to be wet for a little while. And we can tuck it back in there just so it sets a little more the way it should. And just let it marinate. Okay, so those stripes are all on. I just taped the ends with the backing or the sticky paper on it just to hold them down. It's actually been a couple hours since I put the last one on. This one is a little difficult because it's so long. You know, it's about 6 feet long or more. So be careful with that. Have a nice place to lay it. I actually had it laying across here and then sprayed it down. And then draped both ends over my arms and brought it over here and stuck it and then started working it down. So we're pretty good shape. I'll peel that paper off here probably within a half an hour. It's completely dry now. And then make sure our ends are wrapped. Now up here, I have started on our hood stripe preparation. Now this is going to get painted on. It's not going to get done today or tomorrow. Probably next week or so. But I am going to lay the stenciling on it, which is kind of like the stuff here, but it's a little different formula. And I'm going to mask off everything that needs it here. Like I did this, these will come back off. I really just used it as a temporary thing so I can kind of scratch. You can see I sanded this just a little bit to create a division line. And then our stencils will go on there. Now I took time to figure a lot of this out, eyeballing stuff. You have this stripe, which is the strobe stripe. I have it, or ladder stripe. It's draped back there right now. I put tape around the perimeter of the stripe. I did cut it back a little bit. You know, that's why it looks like it's off. But that's something I did so I can center it on top of the little hump here. Okay. And so this really just surrounds it and shows where I need to lay it down. You can't lay this one down wet. It needs to lay down dry, so you got kind of one shot at it. So we're going to do this so that way you can center and then you can start to squeegee it down. Same thing with the ones on the side. They're like a wide pinstripe because you will have the blackout and then a little pinstripe run alongside of it. Well, they give you the stenciling to get that effect. And I took some time. I put the Plymouth emblem on here, and I actually looked at some pictures online of an original 340 72 car and noticed at the end of the H of Plymouth there was a little bit of space, and then I put my headlight bezel in there, and it kind of, the seam on it showed us where everything kind of fell. So I took it there, I measured it from here to here. I noticed that it looks parallel with the hood line edge, and just simply ran it parallel. Made a mark up here as a reference point, and then ran tape to it. And then noticed that it doesn't really run off, but I laid our windshield trim inside of here, and there's a seam on that, which is right here. See the little seam right here? This is the driver's side of the windshield trim with the little turns on them. And I noticed it come out to about here where my thumbnail is scratching it. That is where this come up. So I had to take it and give it a little bit of a hook that way. So that's why I ripped the tape in half so that it would make that turn a little better without binding up the tape. Because otherwise it would have just went straight and come over here. So it does take a little hook and come in. I measured off of that, did the same thing over there so that it's symmetrical. And we're in pretty good shape. So I just wiped this down with our Prep-All because we want the masking tape to stick really good. here it is. The masking is complete. The yellow is masking decal, I guess you can call it. Masking whatever. We've got our sides. So this, where my finger is, will be black. The yellow will be green, and then black again. And then you'll mask all this off of that, okay? And I do notice, at least the way this came out, the inside edge of it comes right on top of that trim clip hole, both sides. So I had to trim the paper back in order to get it to kind of take that curve, because otherwise it just wanted to go straight and it would have bound it up and wrinkled it and creased it, and that wouldn't look good. So at least you have this nice soft transition here. And look down here, you kind of see that. And it kind of takes and hooks around. Same thing there. And this is centered just right when it comes up to the plateau and gets flat. That's where I put it. That's where it looks like it is on the original cars. A little bit of gap down the side, and it's going to fall where it falls there. So I can take these scoops off. They're just sitting on there. They'll get prepped and shot with the paint at the same time. And from what I understand, it's probably a good idea to use the newer formula flat black, the popular hot rod black. They tell me that the wax doesn't affect it if it happens to get on it. If you're waxing a car over here and it hits a little bit of that black, like for instance right here, it won't muddle it up and get all, you know, smeary and all that. It cleans up well. It'll have that nice kind of original look to it. So this is all pressed down. We used our squeegee to do all that good stuff. I clipped it off here. I'll open the hood and mask it properly underneath it. Probably drop down about a ½ inch off of this and make a nice straight line across there, and just where it wraps on just beyond what you can actually see is where I'll tape that. Up here I might just mask and paint this band right here between my fingers black, and anything beyond that will be the green. That would be a nice cutoff, and then our stripe project will be complete. I do have to get another one of these. I attempted to put it on the tail panel, but it's very sticky. I don't know if it's like an old one. It does have the proper reflective properties to it, but it would not separate and stick properly to that. So I have a new one on order. Like I said, I'm going to trim these little radiuses out and make it all kind of equal up here. And I got to open this hole up, because you can see it did not line up good. You have it lined up here and here, and you have it centered to the body seam, but you see what happened there. So we'll just try to make that look a little more natural. Our sides are good. I took the paper off of this. Need to air our tire up, even though it'll last a couple hours. So you're seeing a really good look at this car and how it's supposed to look. Thanks for coming to the Indiana Garage.